What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is finally back, and we are going to Ypsilanti, Michigan, where the Eastern Michigan Eagles are up for 2025 predictions, as this weekend we will be predicting all the directional Michigan schools. My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you all so much for clicking on the video and for helping to support the channel. If you would like to support the channel even further, do what it says right below me, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell, because turning on notifications ensures that you don't miss an upload during prediction season, especially not one of your favorite team. I am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry, and if you would like to see all the cool stuff I get to do while still being up to date on what goes on this very YouTube channel, please give me a follow at TailgateNate29 on Twitter, Instagram, and you can even email me at tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. And now, with all that said and done and out of the way, let us dive on into talking about Eastern Michigan and their head coach, Chris Creighton. Yet again, a little bit of a disappointing year for Eastern Michigan last season, but you look at the roster and they have one of the most experienced rosters in the country. However, there are a ton of pieces that have to be replaced. Apologies for the couple days of being gone. Life got really hectic, but we're back this weekend to predict some more college football. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we are going to go through a roster overview where the offense is going to be right over here to the left and the defense is going to be over here to the right. At the end of the video, we will dive on into the Eastern Michigan football schedule. I will give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. And overall, this video is here to tell all of you what I think about the Eastern Michigan Eagles here in 2025. Before we do get started, though, you look below me. Returning production numbers are there according to ESPN, and they factor in transfer portal additions up to a certain percentage. What's more, as you look below that, recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are both according to 24/7 Sports. Now, with all that said and done and out of the way, let us get over to Mike Pietkowski and this Eastern Michigan Eagle offense. Well, your starting quarterback from last season was a former Buffalo transfer in Cole Snyder, 2,684 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 picks. We're maybe looking for a little bit more out of Cole Snyder last year, but regardless, you'll get a new starting quarterback this season. And you have a pair of transfers coming in, probably one of which is going to earn that starting job. Noah Kim is in from Coastal Carolina, where he formerly was at Michigan State. Noah Kim with the Chanticleers last year did not see much playing time, 333 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. You can't really draw much from 56 passes, but you go back to 2023. It was an overall improvement in terms of if you spread it out over a larger sample size. 1,090 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions there in 2023. And you also do get another transfer into this room as well. That is going to be Cameron Edge, who is transferring in from Maryland, and he very well could see some starting time. But if you were to ask me, Nate, who is going to be that starting quarterback? Well, it says it right over here, guys. I think it's going to end up being Noah Kim. I think he's the front runner. He is a graduate student. This is his, I believe, final year of collegiate eligibility. He may be entitled to one more, but I'm not entirely sure. But as a graduate student with a ton of experience, even though he has never really been put into that full-time starting role, was for a little bit there in 2023 when he was over with, I believe, Michigan State still at the time. Yes, that's correct. Again, didn't play that much behind Ethan Vasco at quarterback at Coastal Carolina last year. So you transfer him over here to Eastern Michigan, a team that just moved on from a really experienced quarterback. Well, you're going to get another one there in Noah Kim. Showed a lot of improvement last year, even though some of the advanced analytics, such as his QBR, was not that high. I think Noah Kim can be pretty serviceable here at the quarterback position for Eastern Michigan, a guy that's seen a lot of college football. Your running back room, well, that's pretty much going to be overhauled from what it was last season. You are losing a ton of pieces out of that room. That does include your leading rusher in the likes of Delbert Mims. He is gone after 805 yards and 9 touchdowns last season. And you do lose some other really nice pieces in that backfield as well. Dante McMillan was only the team's sixth even. I was about to say fifth, sixth leading rusher last year, and has never had that many carries in a season. Well, he's projected to be that starter this year after being in this program for so long. And then you have a couple transfers, James Joyner, and I'm going to butcher this name, Tavier Dunlap. is going to be transferring in as well. Dunlap is over from the Maize and Blue, while the likes of James Jointer comes over from Liberty after posting 251 yards and a pair of touchdowns in 2023. So I do think you got some good pieces here in this running back room. I'm actually really excited to see what Dante McMillan can provide in a full-time starting role, especially since he's been with this program for so long. As far as your wide receiver room goes, you do lose some really nice pieces out of this room as well. You do lose your second and third leading receivers. Your third leading receiver being a guy that I think is really, really talented, and Oran Singleton, who had 639 yards and 2 touchdowns. And albeit I say second and third leading receiver, the top receiver, whose name we'll learn in a little bit, and then you go all the way down to Oran Singleton at the 3. There was only 21 yards that separated those. And right in between the two was Marcus Allen at 651 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, those are big wide receiver losses, and you do lose some other depth in this room as well, especially some of those linebackers like Mims that could catch passes out of the backfield for you. However, your lead wide receiver in Terry Lockett does come back, and not only led the team in receiving yards, also led the team in receiving touchdowns with 5 of them in 46 catches. So he's going to come back with a lot of surrounding experience. Again, even though this is an Eastern Michigan team that does not have a lot of returning production, not at all. This is a team that sees a ton of experience return. You look at this wide receiver room, Terry Lockett is going to end up being a graduate student. What's more, Porter Rooks, Jamarian Wheeler, Ziel Griffin, all of those guys are graduate students. You can even go into the 3 deep, and Nick Devereaux is going to be a grad student as well. Now, you do bring in some transfers that are not grad students, but could provide some pretty major roles. P.D. Tucker is over from Georgia State, while you get Benson Prosper over from Hutchinson Community College. I think those two guys going to play some big roles for you this year. Tight end room is going to be a little bit of a mystery, at least in the depth perspective. It's going to be completely revamped this year. Tanner LeMaster is in as one of the younger pieces that overall will start. He's a Kentucky transfer as a redshirt sophomore. He's probably going to end up starting, and the depth behind him, a little bit of a mystery, but there are good pieces still present. Several starters are going to need replaced on the offensive line. And again, for as much as the graduate students as you have, most of your wide receivers are graduates. You are projected to have a graduate starting quarterback. Dante McMillan is a graduate student. He's projected to lead the running back room. Besides your tight end room, with your tight end room, the offensive line is also going to be pretty young this year. And again, there are pieces that need to replace. Now, granted, you do have a graduate student on there as well, whose last name I probably will butcher, and Mickey Ray Wolinski, who's going to slot into that left guard position. But otherwise, you don't have another projected starting senior. Yes, there are guys that are going to vie for positions that are experienced, like Chris Mayo, Owen Snively, Daniel Warnsman, and others. But again, you got some really good starting pieces. Indestad, Nicholas Gallegos, who's going to slot in to be your center, a transfer in Spencer Webb, who's a really young player to play right guard, Joshua Anderson, and so many other names. So I think it's going to be able to hold its own. Sure, you'd like to see some improvement, but I think the offensive line is going to be pretty solid this season. So now you take a look over at the defensive side in Ben Needham here in a little bit, but when we finish talking about this offense, again, it's got a lot of experience, and you're going to kind of see the same thing defensively too. There's a lot of experience on both sides of the ball, but there are a lot of roles that need filled, and a lot of guys that are going to play in the biggest spots in their careers, and you kind of see that exemplified right here with the defensive sentiment, right? Experienced pieces are going to be absolutely everywhere, but there is a ton that you have to fill in for. Kind of like we just talked about offensively, that's also especially true on the defensive end. Now, stepping up is a must, and a lot of these guys have seen a ton of college football. For instance, let's go to the front 7. Not font 7, front 7. 6 of your top 7 sack leaders are going to be leaving, and they're highlighted by, well, your sack leader from last season in Peyton Price, who had 5 sacks last year, as well as your lead linebacker in the likes of James Jonkum. And we'll throw the N in there for James as well. All right, third time's the charm. There you go. Finally good, well, and updated. But besides those two, you do lose a ton of pieces up front here as well. Luke Murphy has transferred over to Coastal Carolina. He was your second leading tackler last year with 94 tackles. By the way, Jonkum, 98 tackles, 3 sacks. I already mentioned to you that the likes of Price had 5 sacks. You do lose another guy, Justin Jefferson, on the defensive front. He got 4 sacks for you last year, a guy who had 3.5 sacks last season. And Jefferson Adam, well, he does come back, and he is that one returner that out of the top 7 sack leaders on this team. But again, besides those pieces, you lose a lot of depth, you lose a lot of starting experience, and there's a lot of pieces that you're going to need to try to fill in. But as is the theme with this Eastern Michigan team, there's experience everywhere. Jefferson Adams going to be a redshirt senior, and the rest of this projected starting defensive front, Donovan Green, redshirt senior. The likes of Tyrell Martin, a senior. Carter Evans going to play the Leo position, sort of that edge rushing type. He is a redshirt senior. Even the depth pieces you brought in, both of them to be defensive linemen for you this year, are redshirt juniors. So you still do have a fairly good, healthy amount of experience in the linebacker room. It's going to see some solid returns as well. Again, you can throw Carter Evans into that mix if you would like to. There's a graduate student in Zach Mochan who is going to be coming back. Could be Malchan as well. Apologies for mispronunciations. Kendrick Noling is going to be coming back as a graduate transfer or a graduate student as well. And then Caden Bailey is a transfer coming over from Syracuse, who again, on the younger side compared to the rest of this team, but still is a redshirt junior. You get Marco Patierno, who's a redshirt junior. Again, I probably butchered that last name as well, but this is a team that has to see a lot of pieces step up, and you're going to need a lot of roles to be filled. Again, your top 2 tacklers in Jonkum and Murphy are not going to be easy to replace, especially guys that get 90 tackles. Those guys are really, really valuable to defenses. So there's a lot of stepping up that has to do in this front 7. The team did get 25 sacks last year. There's a lot of production to replace. Maybe you can get that number higher than it was last year. That could prove to be a tall ask. I think you at least want to get back there and provide some good solid pressure. As far as your defensive backs, well, you see some good talent leave here as well. Your top 3 defensive backs in terms of leading tacklers are all gone. Most notably, you can take a look at a couple of different pieces. Your leading tackler and Quintavious Scandrett had transferred over to Arkansas to the defensive backfield. Leading tackle out of the defensive backfield. 55 tackles, 3 passes defended, and an interception for him. Your leader in passes defended with 6 last year, and Daquan White is now no longer with the program, and a lot of other talent does leave. And it is the least experienced unit overall on this team. And it's got to see some substantial increase in production. It only had 28 passes defended, which albeit is not that high of a number, and only 5 interceptions. The defensive front did a pretty solid job at creating pressure, and it forced 13 fumbles, recovering 10 of them last year. It's a secondary that's got to step up. Even in the overall yards per game facet, they can take a step in the right direction as well. Again, it is an overall pretty young unit with some good experience pieces such as Dramarian McNulty and Barry Manning. You get some transfers such as Davion Williams, who's over from Charleston Southern, but again, there is a lot that has to fill in. Mitchell Tomasek is back to punt, while a transfer kicker is going to enter the mix, and that is your special teams report. So when you break it down and you take a look at Eastern Michigan overall and how this team is going to play out this season, there are a lot of good things to get excited about with this team. But again, even with the experience you have, which I think is really going to help the Eagles this year, you do also have to factor in the fact that there's a lot of pieces to replace and a lot of guys that are going to be new to this system. All right, so now you get to take a look at the 2025 and in the middle of the screen. You can add that one to the blooper reel as well. Okay, now I'm in my rightful place. Here is a look at the 2025 Eastern Michigan football schedule. But before we dive on into this, let's look down below me at some odds courtesy of FanDuel. Guys, you got to cut me some slack. It's been a couple of days, okay? I'm sorry for the mix-up. All right, FanDuel has you at plus 2,100 to win the conference, which does sit you in the bottom half, and we know it's probably going to take a lot for Eastern Michigan to get into the college football playoff. However, a lot of experience can help them do a lot better than expected. 4.5 is that over-under win total, which compared to all the talent you lost, seems like a fair number, but there is a lot of experience here, which does bring a lot of talent. Now, this is a very interesting schedule. You will notice they do not have a bye week until week 10. They play 9 straight games to open the season. 9 straight games, and their non-conference schedule really is brutal. This is a tough non-conference schedule that I honestly think it's going to take a lot to try to win one of these games. I think first off, you go on the road and you lose to Texas State. Well, this is going to be one of the most talented teams in the Sun Belt Conference this season. I really do truly believe that. I was high on them last year, and they kind of were disappointing. I'm not as high on them this year, but I expect GJ Kinney's group to take a step in the right direction based off of where they were from last season. You no longer have Giovanni McCoy there. He was originally going to transfer in, but I think Nate Yarnell or Holden Gariner are still going to be pretty solid pieces there for you. I still like Lincoln Pear, even though you lost Ismail Mahdi. I think they did great in the transfer portal out of the wide receiver room. And defensively, well, that's the side of the ball that's got to bulk up, but I think they brought in enough transfers to slow down an Eastern Michigan offense that, again, is going to try to get some pieces adjusted. So, not only you got to go on the road and play that one. I think that overall is just going to be a very hard one to win, and Eastern Michigan falters in a road environment. You should be able to get your first win of the year against Long Island. I really don't think you're going to have much of an issue there with the Sharks, but you will have a big issue on the road against Kentucky. I just don't see you going on the road and beating an SEC opponent, even though Kentucky at the end of the year could prove to be one of the lesser sides in the SEC. It's still the SEC, and Kentucky is a team that, if they put everything together, they have one of the best portal classes. They absolutely can bounce back. They did lose a lot, but getting a lot in through the transfer portal, including some really, really good pieces. I definitely do believe that this is a Kentucky team that, well, overall, when you take a look at what they're built of, I think can find some good success, and I just don't see Eastern Michigan being able to win that one. And much like Texas State is going to be one of the better sides in the Sun Belt this year, I believe Louisiana is going to be that as well, and probably more likely out of any Sun Belt team, as a team that made the conference championship a season ago, you can definitely expect Louisiana to be up there in contention to get back to that conference championship game. Now, a transfer quarterback is coming in Walker Howard, looking like it's probably going to be his first full-time starting role, but you get in some really nice pieces back in the running back room. I do like what you have in the wide receiver room, even though some pieces are going to need to be filled in for. Defensive front is really experienced. I think the secondary's got some really good talent led by Tyree Skipper. And again, Louisiana also is coached very well by Michael DeSormo. And I think, again, they're going to be very formidable in the Sun Belt Conference. I know it's a home game, and if you want to go 2-2 in conference play or non-conference play, which you might have to in order to get into the postseason, I think that's the one that you got to go right there and win. When you dive on into conference play there as well, I don't think it starts out too well for you, because I think you're going to go on the road and lose this game to Central Michigan. Now, Central Michigan does have a lot of pieces that need replaced, and there are a ton of portal pieces, including what you have there in the running back room as Trey Cornish is transferring in, but Joe Labus does come back to be a senior starting quarterback. You have a ton of experience and really good returning pieces, such as Stephen Bracey coming back to the wide receiver room. Defensively, they're senior across senior, kind of like you're seeing with this Eastern Michigan team throughout. And again, I think all these directional Michigan schools probably going to hang right around that bowl game line, but individually, I think each can have pretty high ceilings. Central Michigan, I think they see some improvement off of last season. Is it enough to get into a bowl game? We'll see, but I do think they win this game against Eastern Michigan as the Eagles continue to struggle through the early part of the year. But I think they finally figure it out here. Call this Maction chaos before we really get into the November Maction timeline. I think Eastern Michigan goes on the road and pulls off an upset against this Buffalo team. Why do I believe that? Well, while I do think Buffalo is going to be the most talented team shouldn't say that. I think they're going to be one of the more talented teams in the Mid-American Conference this year. They did get an upgrade at the quarterback position with Taquan Roberson, and Aljay Henderson comes back, Victor Snow, Chance Morrow, Nick McMillan, all of those guys return to the wide receiver room. You do have some really good defensive pieces that come back, including Red Murdoch at the linebacker room. So I think Buffalo is more talented than Eastern Michigan. Usually the way I explain these things is, look, something's telling me, you look at that game and say, Eastern Michigan's going to be able to pull off an upset somewhere this year. I think they're going to beat a quote-unquote big boy, whether maybe that's one of the ones in non-conference or this one against Buffalo, Miami, Ohio, and Ohio. Those are some big boys. I just don't see Eastern Michigan bottoming out for the entirety of this season. And again, when they put everything together, I think their experience now, while again, Buffalo's got a lot of experience as well, Eastern Michigan experience could play in some pretty weird ways. And I think there's a game Buffalo this season just doesn't see everything go their way. Best I can explain it, I got them winning on the road against Buffalo, and they continue their win streak, actually their first win streak of the year, as they get up to 3-4 when they play the Northern Illinois Huskies. I do think this is a team overall that could see some struggles this year. I do have their prediction video already out. You can go watch it after this one is done, and I promise we're getting close to the end here. But the Huskies were coming off the biggest upset in school history last year, going on the road and beating Notre Dame, but they're going to have some new pieces, right? New quarterback, some new pieces at the running back position, and overall, compared to Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois is a very, very young and inexperienced team. Granted, there's some good experience on the defensive side, but I think there's a lot, even probably more so than Eastern Michigan, and it's more of a challenge when you have to throw young guys into the mix than guys that have seen a lot of college football, like Eastern Michigan has, even if they haven't been starters. So I think that's a win right there, but these next two games, I don't think are going to go too well for Eastern Michigan, even though Miami, Ohio is revamping everything this season. They are losing generational pieces and world-class talent that program has seen, such as Brett Gabbert at the quarterback position, Matt Salopek and Ty Wise, that linebacking duo, and many other pieces throughout the offense and defense. This is a program that I still think is going to reload. Now, are they going to get back to a MAC Conference championship? I think that would take some work, as there are a lot of talented teams in the Mid-American Conference this season, but I think they're absolutely capable of it. Why? Because they've done it in the past. I think Chuck Martin is one of, if not the best coach in the Mid-American Conference, and Miami, Ohio is going to reload. Same thing with Ohio. There are a ton of pieces that leave defensively, which does leave some holes and some questions, but offensively, I think this is easily where Ohio has this game won against this Eastern Michigan team. Parker Navarro is great at the quarterback position. You get C.A. Bangura coming back to the running back room after trying the Power 4 experiment, it not working for him. So he's back in Athens, where he was a star. Some really good wide receiver pieces come back. And look, even though you are replacing a lot defensively, there still are some good pieces that come back, as well as some good transfers, especially in that defensive front. I think Ohio's going to be one of the best teams in the MAC again this season, even though they are changing over head coaches over to Brian Smith. He's been with this program. He knows how it works, and I think Ohio's going to see some success this season. So look, that's already 6 losses. One more, and you are done. And now you finally get your first bye week. Finally. I think a lot of things are working against Eastern Michigan this season with the schedule. You do have to play some really, really tough opponents throughout that stretch, and even some road contests where you might see 50-50 games. This is one of those 50-50 games right here on Saturday against Bowling Green, but I do believe that you are going to be able to win this one. Bowling Green is going to be going over a lot of changes this season. Most notably, you're going to be getting in a new starting quarterback. Terrion Stewart in the running back room is gone. One of the best tight ends in the country, and Harold Fannin, has left the team. And there really is just a lot to replace. However, Eddie George coming over to be the head coach, I think he actually might surprise some people in the MAC this year. I still think Bowling Green has a good foundation that was built, and I think that they're going to see some pretty darn good pieces. You still got really good wide receiver pieces. Defensively, you brought a ton of transfers in to try to help out what you lost. So Bowling Green can be competitive, but Eastern Michigan trying to vie for that bowl game spot, I think they're going to be able to win that one. And then actually, Man, Nate's having a little bit of a rough video. That is not a week 13 game because that'd be a very quick turnaround. So I'm glad I caught that. This Ball State game, week 12 on November 15th, and they win that one there as well. Ball State's going through a lot of changes, including losing Caden Samanza at the quarterback position. All right, as far as the rest of it goes, you got one game left. Western Michigan. I think Western Michigan is the most dangerous directional Michigan school and probably one of the most dangerous teams in the Mid-American Conference. I think it's going to be really scary to underestimate them, and Western Michigan really does have quite the bit of production back, even if their returning production number doesn't necessarily say it. Brock Lowry is going to be slotting in to play quarterback. Jalen Buckley, I think, is one of the better rushers in the Mid-American Conference, and I think you've got a lot of good talent defensively. So with all of this being said here, guys, I got Eastern Michigan at 5-7. It might take winning one of those non-conference games or getting one of these 50-50 ones. Again, I think they win a game this year that they shouldn't, but a lot of things in the schedule are working against them. You don't have a bye week until week 10. You play a lot of tough non-conference opponents, and even right out of the gate in the MAC, guys, that schedule is not easy, and you don't play Akron, you don't play UMass, and you don't play Kent State. I think it's going to be really hard to get this team back to a bowl game, so I think they falter a little bit. But overall, some of the experience, I think, can play into their factors. They just got to win one more game than I'm predicting to slot into a bowl. That's all from this video. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all y'all in the next video, and let me know what you think about the Eagles in the comment section below. Have a good day. Goodbye. One more video later.